to be talking about technology. I don't know if you've ever run into technology, but it's something that we're all involved in. And technology is a very interesting thing because everything that God creates, He creates for Himself. It was created for Him. So first of all, we shouldn't think that we're so clever that we have technology. It's like, imagine when the printing press came out. People must have thought they were geniuses. Wow, they have books. But it actually doesn't make a difference, the fact that you could print a book. What matters is, what are you printing in the book? And the same thing is with technology. Having technology, I think a lot of the younger generation and they worship, they think it's like this great thing. But coming from a generation, I remember my daughter, she said to me, she says, "Ta, in the olden days, before there were cell phones, when you were there," so in her mind, like, I'm from the olden days because I grew up before there were cell phones. I mean, it's true. We grew up before. It's very hard for us to understand the minds of the children today. They grow up, computers, cell phones. They look at the world very differently to how we look at the world. Because we look at the world in a way like, there were, like, things were kind of much slower. But by them, the world doesn't really have, like, there's no such thing as speed, really. It's just a question of, what do you want to do, right? That's why a lot of the younger generation is questioning, what do we want to do? Like, people even questioning, do we want to work? Do we not want to work? Like, who says you have to do all this stuff? It's like a different kind of mentality. A marketer told me that, I forgot exactly what it's called, but the kids that grew up with, technology like the internet, they called them the globalists. Because, my son can be playing with a kid, a video game with a kid in Saudi Arabia. And so, as opposed to us, that we grew up and we're very much identified with our country and maybe our religion and et cetera, they're growing up in a world in which, they're literally playing video games with, quote unquote, your enemy. And so they must see the world in a very different way, which in a way is good, in a way is bad. It's good in a way because it makes them very open, but in a way it's bad because it makes them a little stupid when it comes to real threats and dangers. And so, in a way, a lot of them, or what we're seeing definitely with the, if you want to call it the progressives, quote unquote, is that they're literally burying their heads in the sand, which makes it very easy to chop it off, because they don't want to think and feel that there is hostile forces in this world, because it's much easier to live in a reality where everybody loves you. And that's why they come up with cockamamie ideas justifying the enemy and vilifying their own protectors, because it keeps them comfortable, right? Because to face the facts would mean that they actually have to grow up and deal with the fact that you have to go to the army, you have to kill sometimes, you have to do these things, and if you don't, consequences will be much worse. And so the idea of maturity, Freud speaks about maturity, calls maturity reality thinking. He says there's pleasure thinking and reality thinking. So pleasure thinking is where I think in a way that feels good. And reality thinking is that I think in a way which is good. And they're very different, because feeling good, think about pleasure eating versus reality eating. Reality eating, it's a question of what really is good and what is really bad. Pleasure eating is what tastes good and what tastes bad. So it's two different realities that we all have to face. And this is really the sum total of technology, right? We have to realize that technology is an invention of God. Nothing happens in God's world that God doesn't want it to happen. And so the reason it's happening is because there are many, many, many reasons that it's happening. There are many different forms of technology. But certainly technology offers us many tools, and the tools need to be used for good purposes. It's like everything in life. I heard this from Tuvia Bolton. He said that the internet is the ultimate hashkach, is what's called klipas naiga. There's three kinds of realities in this world. You have a higher reality which is obviously holy and good, Torah, mitzvahs, etc. Then you have a lower reality that's obviously bad. Then you have a medium reality. And medium reality is most of the reality in this world. Is water good or bad? So in a way you say, oh, water is like life. Yeah, but what are you going to do with your life? Is a paper good or bad? Oh, paper is, you could read. Yeah, but what are you reading? The internet, is it good or bad? Well, it depends. What are you using it for? Right? So the ultimate truth of technology, as opposed to some, even in the religious world, that would like to shun everything that is new, and many, many different faith systems, because there's kind of a fear of what's new, at the same time as it could be the greatest thing in the world. You just have to use it for what it has to be used for. And that's why it obviously is abused very much. There's a very, very big error in this world today, which is that the freedom of speech. Now, there is no freedom of speech in this world. For example, you're not allowed to say, go pick up a gun and shoot someone, right? This could be premeditated. That could be, I don't know what the law is, but that could be, a person can be put in prison for many years for that. So freedom of speech is in a very limited sense. And as I think it was Clarence Thomas, who was Justice Scalia, who was very into the Constitution, said, the Constitution actually does not give you a lot of rights. It gives you a couple of rights: right to bear arms, a right to say what you want to say in a certain context. And furthermore, there's a very, very deep evil that the United States government is doing. I'm going to tell you something interesting. I have a friend, very, very smart guy. So he said that Sufism, which is kind of what we usually think of as Islamic mysticism, actually has in it this concept of torturing people to death, as all good Islam has, at least killing. And he, to be fair, I'm sure there's some Muslims that are against that, but certainly it's deeply embedded in the Quran. And so there were these videos that these people had put up of, I don't know, when they were killing people. And so he was able to get every single website to take it down, except for the US government, who said it's freedom of speech, right? So there's a Harvard kid suing Harvard that I saw just a little bit of a clip where he was saying, like, when it comes to so much, they're so into, oh, you can't say that, you're going to hurt somebody's feelings. And then he's like, well, this is openly Jew hatred. Oh, they have First Amendment rights. So this is very clearly, the Constitution itself can easily be interpreted in many different ways. And the way somebody's interpreting it actually shows the way they want to interpret it. And so there's a tremendous evil that's going on in the world today, which is allowing pornography, allowing hate speech on the internet. The internet happens to belong to the American government. If the American government publishes a newspaper, would they put in something pornographic? Would they put in a hate speech? No. So why exactly are they allowing it? And the fact, most countries of the world do not allow pornography on the websites. They can cancel it in a second. So the fact is, it's even here in Israel. There is no connection between free speech, and nowhere in the Constitution does it say, are you allowed to, look at not sneeze, rude and disgraceful pictures. It doesn't say that. So it does say you have freedom of speech to a certain extent, but it does not give you freedom of what you're looking at. So there has to be, we spoke about this before, the Rabbi's idea, which is the only way to get real democracy is, you have to take a poll. And I'm sure if you polled most of the American people and say, what do you think? They say, no, we shouldn't have this, right? It's ridiculous. And so what the internet does allow, it allows all of the most vile, shameless people in the world to get a platform and to say what they want to say. And now you have terrorists, creating YouTube channels. It's unbelievable. And it's very disgraceful. Companies such as YouTube, which is kindly hosting this, and other companies that, it reminds me of the times in Germany, where millions of Jews are being slaughtered. And I forgot who owned, it was a Jewish family that owned the New York Times, and they're hardly mentioning the Holocaust because they're so busy trying to look good and, for the non-Jews, that they're actually not thinking about what is moral and what is right. So there's no, it's like for a Jew to be hosting, Facebook, for them to be hosting, I don't know, Hamas or any other evil element on their technology is just sick to the greatest degree. And I mean, this is just what I know of the internet. Like they say, most of the internet is the dark net. Which I mean, if the light net is that bad, I don't want to know what the dark net is. So we're talking about a reality in which the we're talking about a reality in which the um, the people that have put out this technology have a tremendous responsibility to not allow it to be used for the bad. And unfortunately, they are derelict in their duty. They are not doing what they should be doing because they should be monitoring the technology. Now, I said I have a friend in Switzerland that I speak to quite often, and he was saying, kind of what it says, that in a time of great lies and deception, telling the truth isn't a great act. And really, he said that many people are looking for the truth now, so we have to tell the truth. So I decided that my video that I put up on YouTube, like a little 1 minute short, should be called The Truth and Nothing But the Truth. And to be honest, I wasn't exactly sure what I was going to say, but something very truthful and very nice came out. And that is that there's a difference between personal and global responsibility. Every person has a tremendous responsibility when it comes to themselves to do what is right. Nobody's forcing you to do what is wrong. In fact, even if it costs you your life, there are moments in time, if somebody says, go shoot someone or I'll kill you, you have to say, no, thank you, you can kill me, right? There are moments in times that a person has to step up to the plate, and they have to be ready to do anything for their moral value system. However, when it comes to helping out humanity as such, again, there is a certain obligation, but it's not the same, because the obligation that I have as an individual to be moral is very, very, very absolute. The whole of life is about being moral. The obligation that I have towards humanity is a little bit less so. In other words, you can't just go and, I don't know, even if it's something as serious as somebody, who's, gonna, well, I mean, actually, in that case, you do. I was just thinking of a case, there is a din, a law in the Torah. If somebody's going to murder somebody, you have to actually kill them before they kill the other person. You're not allowed to allow somebody else to get killed, which technically speaking is an obligation of the Israeli government to wipe out all of the terrorists. In fact, it's based on their own polls, 98% of Gaza and the West Bank and certainly Hezbollah are terrorists. So the Israeli government has a moral duty. In fact, this guy, very special guy, Rabbi Eli Silberstein, is Chabad Rabbi Cornell. So this lady, she says to him, she's married to a senator, and so she says, Rabbi, can you speak to my husband? Or maybe it was a congressman. He was probably retired by then. So he has this conversation with him. So he's like, oh, we all thought Israel would be a beacon of light, and now that. She says, congressman or whatever, senator, whatever he was, I'd like to ask you a question. If somebody's about to kill, say, your daughter, do you kill them because you love your daughter, or do you kill them because you have a moral duty to kill them? So I don't know. I never thought about it. He says the Torah that tells us don't kill, and it tells us everything moral to do, tells us you have a moral duty to kill somebody that's going to kill someone else, because the person is guilty of murder. And in fact, it's something that you don't need permission. Like any Jew right now with, a nuclear bomb can wipe out Gaza, or you don't need permission to do this from anybody. In fact, it's an obligation and a duty to go ahead and to murder somebody. I mean, nobody would want their own child, God forbid, to be murdered by somebody else. So not doing this, the Israeli government, to give land away is evil. You're giving terrorists a base in which to kill your citizens. No government in the world, there's a group of people that would say, hey, we want to kill you. You say, okay, well, actually, we'll give you a slice of territory in our country, Or somebody would say, oh, we want to kill you. Okay, we'll give you the backyard shed. So there is a moral obligation on literally anyone to actually take these people out. And it's not murder, it is defense. And so that's very, very important to say. And so hopefully it says that God does all the mitzvahs. So hopefully God will do the mitzvah himself you know, in the end of the day, he's keeping them alive, right? Life comes from God. So he's got to pull the switch on that one.